Okay, so hey guys, welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video it's a pleasure to be joined here by Dan Lewis. Dan, how are we, mate?
I'm all good, pal, thank you. Yourself?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Like I say, pleasure to speak to you today, and am I right in saying, for anybody who may not know, you're a professional boxer who's just turned over now?
I'm just going through the process at the minute. I've got my licence meeting, obviously pending, then obviously going through medicals and stuff like that, but I'll be looking to do my pro debut. We're looking at June 1st, we are, in summer.
Okay, brilliant.
So obviously if everything goes well and everything all to plan, then I'll be turning over, of course.
Of course, brilliant stuff. Well, start off with the question which I always like to start off with, and that being, why did you start boxing?
Well, it's a weird one really, because I've never really got an amateur background, but I've always been interested in boxing, you know, fighting, from watching like You Never Back Downs and You Rockies and all that sort of stuff, like all like the training and everything, even being like a little kid going on YouTube and looking at like top 50 knockouts, looking at your Mike Tysons and everything, you know yourself, like, with all them videos, and obviously I used to watch it and I used to think like, you know what, that I'd love to do that, you know what I mean, just obviously, just to be in the, amongst it all. Well, there wasn't really any like clubs around my way, obviously, you know, it's hard to find them, or a friend of a friend, never really, my pals really boxed or anything, so it's a case of like, just, literally just not really going to boxing. But one of my pals ended up going to like an amateur club, he did, and I went with him one of the days, and this was like, I was like 16, 17 at this point, and it was just a case of just like hitting a bag twice a week, and just nothing really taking it too serious, but then obviously COVID hit. Obviously it was on and off, you see, it was literally like just going twice a week, probably won't go for like 2 months, then go there, and just, that's all it was, but when COVID hit, then nothing really came from it. Obviously, you know, being a young lad, obviously I was still young still, on push bike with my mates and stuff like that, not really doing no exercise of course, but then it started back up again, an amateur club it did, then I went there, but then I kind of started again liking it again, but they said they were closing it down because of like funds and stuff like that, and not many like folk were going to it, and it was like closing in 2 weeks, and a friend of a friend who's a roofer of mine, he said, well, one of my pals obviously goes boxing, and it's a pro stable, so he said, obviously, if you're rough and ready and like you want to fight, then come down with me. And obviously I took the opportunity and said, yeah, no, and obviously the club I was at was closing down and nothing really coming from it. So this was at literally like 2021 when you could actually start seeing folk again, you know what I mean? Then obviously went there with him. Then I've never looked back since. Obviously, it's just literally been like, probably the best decision I've ever made. Obviously, at Shinfield's club, that's where it was at. Because when he took me down, I was like, where are you taking me here? Because it's a right old school gym and stuff like that. Like, obviously went on back garden, then literally, it was just spot on.
No, amazing. It's great to hear the story and to hear that you're passionate about it from what it sounds, and obviously, you know, you've had a bit of a white collar type background. Are you able to
that's it, yeah.
Speak a bit about that?
Yeah, because when I went to, obviously at Shinfield's club, we was on like the EBF, obviously I could only go on the EBF scene of course, and I've never really had a fight before, and I remember it like, being there for like 6 months, and he said, do you fancy like, doing it? And obviously when I was at this point, I wanted to box, you know what I mean, when I'm amongst it all, I think to myself like, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. Then I believe it was 22nd of May 22. I always remember it because it was the first fight, and I lost at it. It was a big tough fella he was, but yeah, I just fell in love with it from then, from that first fight, you know, the walkout and everything, and all my pals there and that, that's when I knew then like, this is for me now. But yeah, obviously the unlicensing, I've had 7 fights, I've lost 2, I've won 5, and 2 fights previous, I ended up getting the area title, super welterweight. So that's obviously a big achievement to say. I've never really fought from 2 years previous, and obviously I've won that. Then fought, I think it was 2 weeks ago at Motorpoint, so.
That's brilliant, and you know, obviously fighting on Ashton Promotions, and then, you know, possibly now turning over with John Ashton Promotions. And do you feel like there is that kind of stepping stone being made there? I mean, I spoke to Jack Mantle about it, you know, the stepping stone from the kind of white collar to then turn pro, and it's now being made with the Ashton boys.
Oh, definitely, mate. Honestly, like, I didn't think it'd be possible to even sign a pro contract, you know, to be professional. But obviously, like, with these lads coming through, because amateurs is obviously like different. You obviously need to be in an amateur club, of course. But say if you're at an unlicensed club and you're like doing the stepping stones, eventually, like, you know yourself, like you say, it's a bit of like an academy. Like Jack Mantel says, it's literally.
Yeah.
The only way is up, isn't it? You know, if you stick at it and go through ranks and stuff, you literally like sky's the limit with it, isn't it?
Most definitely. And you know, white collar doesn't always get the best of reputations, but do you feel like it definitely has its place there in boxing?
I'd say so, yeah, definitely, because I wouldn't knock it because that's all I know, you see. I've never had no amateur fights, nothing. To be fair, even as a young lad, I never even wanted to be an amateur. I was happy hitting a bag and being on mitts, and I felt like I was a boxer then, you know, as a kid, but there's obviously a lot more depth to it, of course, but I never really had the chance to be an amateur. But this is obviously my chance to obviously fight and learn my ring craft and stuff like that, so definitely there's a place there for it.
Good to hear. And you know, now you've decided to start the process of turning professional, and why have you now decided now to do so?
Well, to be fair, I didn't decide. It's just obviously like 7 fights. I haven't really got much of a background with fighting, not much ring craft, of course, but since being at like the club where I'm at now, it's literally from when I first stepped through. I never even done road work before until I came here. Like, I didn't even know what putting a pair of running trainers on, you know what I mean? Getting shin splints and stuff. Like, I never had it before, but it's literally like I've had my head in. I've been on it for like 2.5 years from when I first walked through. And I've had the hard rounds of sparring with lads. I've had it hard, mate. You know what I mean? And I've been tested, and like on the unlicensed scene, it's the first one to hit deck. You've only got 3-2 minutes to do what you can do. I'm a bit more, I won't say relaxed, because I can fight all day long, but I like to place my shots, and I like to be a bit more like smarter with my fighting, you know. So I kind of feel like we sat down with my coach, and he says, I think you'll suit it a lot more with the way you fight, and instead of being all rushed and getting into a fight and stuff like that, you know, a lot can go wrong. Obviously I can fight, but it's a case of being long, jabbing and getting behind your jab and working, you know what I mean? So I think I suit the pros a lot better than I do the unlicensed scene.
Amazing to hear. And you know, obviously, like I mentioned, you go through that process of turning professional now, and you know, people don't always know that it is quite a big process to turn professional. And would you, you know, care to shine a bit of a light on somebody who is going through the process now, what it's taking, and what are you having to do to get through it?
Well, to be fair, like I've got my board meeting I believe it's this Sunday coming, so I'm going for my board meeting. Note for that all goes well. Then it's a case of just your medicals, you know, the paying for the medical. It's expensive sport. I never realised as a kid how expensive it is, or even just before I knew about professional boxing, and boxing in itself, it's expensive. Everything's an expense with it, isn't it? You know, the medicals are just crazy amount of money. Well, that's where your sponsors come into play. You know, if you like, obviously I gained 2 sponsors I did on the unlicensed scene. Obviously they like to have what I was about and stuff like that, so they said they'll help me with the cost and some sort of cost, you know what I mean? Then, but going through the process, it's not all glamorous, you see, you know, it's not all, oh, you turn over pro and that's it. It's literally a lot more into it, you know what I mean? Because I've still got to do my medicals, of course, and, you know, anything can pop up, you know what I mean? So, all I know, it's literally like, until that day happens, you know what I mean? It's literally all fingers crossed, everything goes well. Then obviously once that's been sorted, then I'm on to the pros then.
Of course, and you know, fingers crossed for that, of course. But you know, like you mentioned, when you go into the pros, you haven't got, like you also mentioned, too much of a kind of amateur background or white collar background. But do you feel like going into the pros, there's no kind of real rush with your career, and you can take it at whatever pace you feel comfortable at to then progress along?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. I don't want to be too comfortable with myself, because like I said, I've only been boxing 2.5 years, because I've like I said, I've boxed before at places, but I strongly believe I started boxing the day I walked through Shinfield's gym, you know what I mean? Like, that's when I really started to box and learn and see where I'm at within myself. Like, it's easy hitting a bag and, you know, doing all that stuff, but a case of sparring and testing yourself, I'm still a baby in the sport. I'm still learning, so there's not much rush in that. But there's also like you always want to be number one, don't you? So you always want to like go through ranks, of course. So there's literally like it's just a fire burning now. It's just a case of like the tail's wagging, and I'm just ready to go now. I can't wait for it.
Of course, and so it seems like you have that kind of excitement at the moment, and it's what you want to be hearing. And I suppose on the days where in the gym and things like that, everybody gets it. You don't always want to go and train, and you don't always have the energy to. But what is that kind of motivation currently for you for boxing?
To be fair, like anyone will say, 9 out of 10 boxers would say like they don't want to go, but you have to go. You know what I mean? It's like that's what I've learned. Like my pal Liam Dring, obviously my stable mate. I've heard him say numerous times like you got to live the life to want it and be a boxer. You can't just be half-hearted with it. Like as before, when I first started off, my diet went no good. Like I was eating probably a Macca's after a session. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't. Because I wasn't really like knew my potential in it, but now obviously my diet's on point, everything's on point. I'm literally just ready to go. I'm like a Duracell battery, Every day, I know you can lack motivation, of course, but I feel like every day I just want to box. It's what the life I want. So
it's amazing to hear, and I suppose for your debut around summertime, what are fans to expect from you stylistic wise?
Well, I'm a natural orthodox, I am, but what I've been learning this past year is switching a lot. Because there was a bloke who come down, ex-pro, Leo Maywood. He used to show me switching. He did was my coach said, "Hey, just show Dan switching," and he used to show me. And it used to spin my mind out. Going from southpaw to orthodox or vice versa. I used to my legs used to go from underneath me, and I used to think, how is this possible? But I've literally just been learning it, and now it's it's all coming to play now. So making the opponent fall short, then obviously coming back, then switching out, of course, like that. That's what sort of fighter I want to be. I want to be like a flash switcher, and that's what obviously I'm aiming to be, like a nice, tidy switcher.
Sounds amazing, and I can't wait to see it. And I suppose like you've mentioned, there is that potential there for you, and I'm sure other coaches have said that to you. And what would you say is that of future along down the line aspirations for you and goals for you in boxing?
Goals in boxing. See, like I say, when I was young, I never really used to think I'd even be pro or even fight or anything. I've always wanted to fight, of course, but like I say, there was not really many gyms or anything. But even again, one of my stable mates said, I always listen to everything. I'm like a sponge now. I take everything, little things from everyone in the club. And I believe it was one of the Morgan brothers said, if you're not in this game to be a world champion, you might as well hang your gloves up now. And that stuck with me. And you know what? I thought to myself, if you don't want to be number one, then there's no point being number two. You might as well just go home and call it a day.
Totally agree, and obviously last weekend we saw the Fraser Morgan versus Sean Bruce fight, a great fight, and I suppose first of all, get your opinions on that fight.
I believe honestly that was probably the best fight I've seen. Obviously, like a small all show, that was spot on. That was obviously like you say, Sean obviously is a stronger lad, of course, but Fraser. I think he's literally a couple of months older than me. He's 23, I'm 22, and literally watching him do that at the stage he is, I think it's incredible. You know what I mean? It's like give him credit all day long for that. Because obviously my stable mate, I've seen him train every day and stuff like that, and it's literally I take my hat off to him for it. Because to someone to do that 10 rounds in 3 minutes, that's a proper fighting man. That is, you know what I mean?
Totally agree, and
But all credit to Bruce, of course, for winning. Obviously, the better man won on the night. Obviously, all credit to him. But obviously, Fraser's my stable mate, and like I say, that's probably the best fight I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was an amazing fight, and I suppose domestic fight wise, are you excited for obviously your career, and I suppose the fact of a domestic fight possibly within the next couple of years, that being the first kind of big 50-50 opportunity that a lot of fighters get?
Yeah, I can't wait, mate. Yeah, like I say, obviously you start off through your ranks, of course, but say when it's prospect v prospect, I'm all game for it. like I say, I can fight, I can plant my feet, I can be on my jab. Like I say, I'd fight anyone. It's literally a case of just like when your moment's here, it's here and you take it with both hands. So eventually when it gets to that point and an opponent comes along and it's 50-50 fight, I'm all over it.
Amazing stuff. Well, been a pleasure speaking to you. I'm going to ask one final question, which I always like to ask anybody that comes on the channel. You've got a little bit of a platform here. Is there anything you'd like to shout out, promote, anything like that?
Yeah, mate, I'd like to, obviously, this is my company, obviously, I'll DJL Garden and Property Maintenance, obviously, you got to fund yourself, of course, because, end of the day, there's my gym sponsor, SC Travel, Warm Seal Windows and Fascias, and Cast Angling Project, they're my sponsors, and obviously they've been helping me 100% all through the way, and they said they'll sponsor me until end of my career, and stuff like that, so, all props to them. I want to shout out my friends, my coaches, my stable mates. Then obviously if any sponsors want to jump on board and see what I'm about, then obviously hit me up on Instagram at Daniel_23. And yeah, we can go through there. But like I say, shout out to anyone who's behind me all the way, you know what I mean? It's literally, I appreciate it.
Amazing stuff. Well, I appreciate your time here today, Dan, and I wish you the best of luck with all your medicals and everything like that. And
well, I appreciate the call.
Fingers crossed we can speak again soon, and I possibly might be at your debut, and hopefully I will be. And then after that, we could maybe get an in-person chat going.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I look forward to it.
Brilliant. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you did indeed like video, and thanks for